Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And a wonderful morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo and broadcasting on TV1. Proud member of the Capital Maharaja Group. A jolly good morning to you. And it's wonderful to be in the company of mature friends. And Krishmal Varnasuri is here. Very good morning to you.
Top of the morning to you, Faraz. Good to be back in your studio after a while.
I was going to describe you in my normal way, which is...
your viewers know me by now.
They know you. But there's a slight variation. It's the BMW driving, Tomian educated, something drinking, former JVP
Let's
man.
get on. That's incorrect. I was nominated on the national
you were
level.
nominated.
I was never a party member.
Right.
I don't think they liked me too much.
They didn't.
I don't.
But they made use of you. You know, they made use of you. And you, by rights, you should have been on the national list, shouldn't you? Have you got over that? What do you feel? What kind of contribution would you
But
make?
it didn't affect me, did it? I mean, they asked me to come, me and the former Auditor General. We were number 1 and 2. And I think we won our seats fair and square. I think the country needs to deliberately, I mean, for me, as you say, it's a matter of going back to court. I came to serve the country. If they didn't need me, I was going to go back.
Right.
But as to whether the country needs, wants their nationalists manipulated like this is a question that the country must deliberate.
It really is, needs to be fixed, all these little wonderful nuggets.
Yeah, not just me personally, but the concept.
Yes.
If you want to bring professionals in on a national list, then can you sort of sell them and then after they win, put defeated people in their place is a question that the country must look at.
They must do that. Now, you know, I wanted to pose this question to you, Krishmal, this morning. Beyond the bond and all the controversy about ICTA, what's in store for the Apalania movement? Is the media a pivotal force?
Yeah. On the Apalania movement alone, Faraz, I mean, you were at your station last night discussing the same thing. 4 people, at least 4 of us who were involved one way or the other in the Apalania establishment.
Yeah.
As a person who actively took part in it, putting our life and limb at peril, as we've discussed before, the night of the election results, we were advised not to be at home, our little children, and we had to be hidden in hotel rooms on the 15th of January in 8th of January 2015. Because had the result tilted, perhaps our very lives would not have been safe. But having gone through that, we have mixed feelings. One, there appears to be a difference in freedom and even these resignations. Now, I'm not going to justify the resignation.
No.
But the resignations, the culture appears to have undergone a certain change from what it was. Remember last regime, we couldn't even think of questioning, no? We couldn't even think of free speech, no. Only a few of us who were mad enough to put our life in peril went for those court martials and everything else at that time, challenging the 18th Amendment.
Indeed.
So from where it was, we've come far. But remember that this government can't take the credit for it. That's where I disagree. Now the government, I have heard lots of MPs coming on your channel say, it is nothing that they brought and gave.
This is what we had always.
This is what ought to be. This is the common norm. It's just that people of this country wanted that change on the 8th of January and voted for it. Nothing that they brought in. Several common independent citizens by their Twitter, text message, a younger generation who voted, they all wanted that normalcy and brought a system to have that. So the government don't raise your collars up and say that we have given you freedom, you have not given us anything. We the people have got it.
And can you guess where...
Just on the media, media is important. Remember now, we are supposed to be a democratic socialist republic. Now in common parlance, media is considered to be the 4th pillar of democracy now. There are the 3 institutions, the formal institutions, the legislature, the judiciary and the executive. The 4th pillar of democracy is considered today to be media.
The 4th estate.
The 4th estate or the 4th pillar, we call it by any name. But media therefore have a because the party that bridges the gap between these 3 formal institutions and the public is the media. So you have a very pivotal role to play in the furtherance of what we consider as principles of good governance.
And can you sort of hazard a guess to see, to sort of guess where we were, our network in all this?
I mean, I've said this before, and I make no bones in saying it again. Sirasa, Maharaja, MTV, MBC played a pivotal role in that change that we managed to secure. The people managed to secure by giving coverage when at the time. But even now, not just then, even now, if you look across the board, several channels, I don't want to mention names, appear to be on a lopsided mission of warping the people's mentalities, taking what I say, good example, 30 seconds. If you watch news on any evening, prime time, most news is to do with slurring mud against each other, who's fighting whom, who's running away with the mace of parliament, or who's hitting someone else with a slipper. You know, now that is not, and also who's following who, how many people have said now they'll cross over and go after whom. That is not news to the common public for us. What is, recently there was an economic summit in Tokyo. Sri Lanka also had a small delegation. And we in Sri Lanka, CNN, even China TV was reporting on it. We haven't seen anyone, except your station, that carried a small segment, which I congratulate you for. You know, news to all several other channels seem to be politically biased. So what are they doing? They're dragging the people down to this political mud hole, and without trying to elevate the people to a more democratic way of life. So therefore I congratulate your station once again for at least making or attempting to make that change when several others are just playing into this political gallery.
So I mean, even without this right to information and all sorts of things in a very, as you say, we couldn't really move, but we did, and we have continued to report and so on. And in essence, in a way, sometimes when I reflect on it, I think we fought that last government on where they were clearly failing the people, and so in effect we gave them a platform. We gave the newcomers a platform.
Absolutely.
To ride on.
Not just newcomers, you offered the then opposition, which was not just a political opposition, activists in society, leaders in, say, now when
I'm glad you're saying that, because you see, the activism had already started because the people had got fed up of that government.
Yes.
And
there were little whimpers here and
right.
there. But you gave them a forum to come out and speak.
That's right.
I mean, otherwise, even a person like me, for example, say if I had not been given airtime by your station and several others, of course, there was a political movement in August that put me forward as election candidate. But in January, remember, I was no political figure. In January, I was just a lawyer, like several others, who were fighting for a better system.
Yes, for a just society.
For a just society. But then we were given a forum to take that message out to the public, whether it was out on the road at Lipton Circus, we were given a forum, and for that you must be congratulated.
What do you think? Sometimes do you reflect? I told you that I reflected, but sometimes do you reflect, and do you often, or sometimes, do you wonder what drives journalists? And when I mean journalists, I mean everyone is a journalist here. You know, I think from Mr. Hanifa, who makes our tea and makes us comfortable.
Who makes the coffee very well.
Right, there you go.
Thank him for that.
And, you know, the makeup people, the cameramen, the drivers, you know.
All part of one team.
All one team. So do you often wonder why, what sort of passion drives them?
I would actually like to elevate all of you to several other professional segments. For example, even lawyers, not lawyers who have been motivated to take on the practice of law for just the accumulation of money, but lawyers who have been driven by whatever circumstances. Now, in my example, I'm son of two government servants. I saw how they continuously battle with the state, particularly my father, after changing government. And so things like that drove us to the practice of law. You follow? And then we had this vision to make sure that things were right, that the man who was this, at one very low ebb against his whole monstrous state machinery that's supposed to wield all power, how we could try to give this small man, the underdog, a voice. Your team plays, I think, an equal part because you're driven by that passion to make things better. Any journalist who's actually committed to the job has that passion, that you know, Wordsworth on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, you know, they flash upon the inward eye the bliss of sudden solitude. Now that solitude to a committed journalist or a committed lawyer or any social worker in that sense would be that the daffodils for them would be, you know, what flashes upon their inward eye would be that just society, that dream that I can, that I can make a better place, at least a little bit better, that I can live when I die than when I found it. I mean, I think that's what's driving, that's what should drive an ideal committed journalist like your team or any other committed professional, anyone else. That's a passion that you need to have.
A quick walk around our newsrooms, and you'll see so many young people, the interns being given internships here, opportunities to come and experience firsthand the madness and the mayhem, and ultimately the professionalism of the news team. There are so many, the young people, and it always inspires me when I see them there. And of course,
there's another generation to carry the flag.
That's right, and it's wonderful. When we see Zulfik Fazan reporting from the Presidential Commission into the bond, consistent. He's out there every day, like a prayer, and taking down absolutely meticulous notes. I think he's on the 9th notebook.
Tell young Zulfik that Professor Parnavitana,
yes,
when he was trying to translate the Segiri frescoes, had nothing but old boiled wattakka in the morning, taken up to that rock every morning with a bit of coffee, and months and years he translated. No one even knew what the man was doing until it actually came out that he had actually interpreted the writings and the poems on the frescoes. So that is motivation for young, what's his name that you mentioned?
Zulfik.
Zulfik, because there are greater people gone before you for the sake of communicating a message to the public.
Now, we went, talking about young people, and that was the theme at our annual award ceremony function some months ago. The future, youth, the future. And we have 2 members of the family who will carry this company forward and so on. But all our jobs are far easier. Now, I was just about to tell you the story about, it was something to do with ICTA. And ahead of a press conference, young Chaturanga Haporach, who sometimes produces this show, made a visit to company's house. He was very insistent. He wanted to get this document, and he tried every bit of plea in the book to get that document that day. We were there from morning, Krishmal, and by around 3:30 he had it. I don't know what I think all those people became uncles and aunties and archies and seers and all that, and he did everything, but we got the document. And the next day...
That's commitment for us.
That's commitment. The next day, he asked the minister, and the minister said, no, this company, it wasn't even in business. What are you talking about? And, this little chap, he's getting this piece of paper which he kept there, and he waves it there and he says, but minister, I've got a document, an official document, that tells you that this company has been in business since whatever day. Completely gobsmacked.
Yeah.
So either he was informed, underinformed, or whatever. But that was the commitment. He was there the whole blessed day.
But don't 2 things arise from that? One, Suranga's commitment, and the fact that he's committed to what he's doing. Number 2, the unpreparedness of the minister.
Well, absolutely.
This is what I tell the Republic, the people in this Republic who send their representatives in to govern them, say, you need to pick people who will spend time on the job, who will be prepared, frankly, who will have enough intelligence. I don't mean a professional degree or certificate, but who will have enough intelligence and wisdom to carry out and do that, because they are called lawmakers. Now, some minister was on your station was saying that lawmakers have become tea makers. He was saying lawmakers become tea makers. Why have you, it's not the ministers that make them know, the people send them know. So why have the people made lawmakers tea makers? The people must ask this question from yourself.
But I must tell you this, from our perspective as well, from the perspective of the journalists, a couple of things come to my mind. First of all, of course, our job is made much easier when people like you come out and speak fearlessly and openly.
Thank you.
And secondly, this concept of whistleblowing is absolutely very important. We get loads and loads of documents sent to us. God knows from where, but they all come. Of course we check for its veracity and all that. But, you know, when you take the bond issue, when we started, we were accused of all sorts of things, that this was a personality problem and this, that, and the other. But we quite literally hollered from the highest points available and spread this message, because, you know, when you talk about bond, people think, oh God, that's a bit complicated. But months and months and months, yes, we have made it easy to understand for people. And the bottom line is that there was a huge public perception that something amiss had gone on at the central bank.
No doubt about it, Faraz.
And so nobody believed us. They said, oh, this is all rubbish.
Yeah.
But today, history will record that what we said right from the first day, the very first coverage on the bond, was a conflict of interest. And today that conflict has gone into many different avenues. And of course, finally, the other thing, the third thing, with people like you, whistleblowers, secondly, and thirdly, very important for us journalists, is the commitment of our publishers to go forward. We can only shine as much as the commitment displayed by our publishers. If they don't display, if they're fearful, then so will we.
Yep.
And if we don't have an opportunity to come out and say what we are saying, then
they need to shield you to be able to do what you do. Otherwise, you will not be able. Or if, like you say, if they're scared, they say, no, cut this off, then of course, once again, the people will not benefit.
So, you know, the more fearless the publishers are, the greater the benefit to the people. You know, so we report, you decide. Right?
As your tagline goes.
As our tagline goes.
Isn't it something like, now we report, you resign or something?
Well, what can we do? What can we do? That's the way it seems to have been.
Yeah.
But, you know, these whistleblowers and the commitment, you know, if you look at the bond scam, Bondgate, Mrs. Deepa Seneviratne, do you know, honestly, Krishma, we need to get a petition going, perhaps maybe at the end of the Bond Commission. That lady stood up to the governor of the central bank. He wanted to take 20 billion. It advertised figure 1 billion. And she said, no, you'll ruin it. And he said, well, why don't take 10? You know, and it's in there. It's all recorded.
Can I just go back to the bond thing? As you were trying to say earlier, I said this the other day, last week at your station when I came for your singular program. You somehow managed you see the bond, or you want to understand it, particularly at a grassroots or village level, to understand a complicated transaction like a central bank bond issue. It's difficult. Also, people have enough problems in their day for us. They don't want to spend a lot of time trying to understand an issue to think about it.
Yeah.
You follow? But you all managed to somehow break it down and simplify it to the people so that even the common man, as you said correctly, started asking the question, well, you know, hang on, something is amiss here.
Yeah.
They may not have understood the entire intricacy of a bond dealing, but something is wrong. There appears to be that horse feeling, the gut feeling.
Yeah.
Now that is what ultimately led to what happened. But let me just say, a resignation does not make something right for us.
Absolutely.
You follow? See, someone resigning is good. I actually congratulate Ravi for doing that, because before he was proven guilty, anyone has a presumption of innocence, so anyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
Now the commission hasn't even formulated a report.
Yeah.
But before that, for whatever reason, the man resigned. That must be congratulated. But I am telling so many government people are now coming, our policy, our ministers are also sent to a
That's all tosh.
This is what is supposed to be democratic governance.
Exactly.
So don't once again start throwing your collars up and say we are very good because we have got one of our friends who resigned, because we now want to see how many other faces are behind this. And this does not make all the wrongs right.
And you know, we have, Krishma, just to touch on that, we have different journalists who handle different issues, so that, you know, it's all there. So that person will know. Last night you would have seen Gayan Sampath, one of our directors of news. He was on there. He was presenting this thing about ICTA.
Yeah.
And now ICTA is another thing, rather like the bond, where people don't really understand what on earth is going on.
It's a complicated thing.
Yes, but in a nutshell, Krishma, there are wild and baseless claims being made. Now, in the Commission of Inquiry, they referred to illiterate people who couldn't understand how 8,600 pages had been analyzed very quickly. And Mr. Kodagara said that. But here, in this case, these aren't illiterate people. They are highly intelligent people who know how to articulate their position. But very unfortunately and very sadly, they have done this, or they try to do it, to the detriment of our country. So the frequency they're talking about, 700 to 800, this frequency.
We might just need to touch on what we are discussing when you say ICTA.
Yeah.
You're talking about this national payment platform.
The national payment platform,
that's been proposed recently.
That's right.
Now, it's obviously in the proposal stages and none of us have any literature on it, so it's very difficult to comment on the exact details of it. But very quickly for your viewers, national payment platform or any payment, what we have now, as is referred to by the present governor of the central bank, all these banks, this is nothing new. All the banks and payment gateways, particularly the banks, have a netting off session at the end of a day, where all the checks that are credited and are debited against each other are netted off, and that is done at a national payment system, a clearing house, a clearing system.
And the same applies to when we use our card
most developed countries have these online, and that's digital. There is nothing, there is no magic in that. But the question that is being presently raised, I believe, by a very learned man, who I have a lot of respect for, the present central bank governor, is the way, the manner in which it has been done.
That's right.
So because one is very questionably the data protection angle. That's what the governor, in the communication that you just placed before me. As I say, I haven't had a lot of time to study it, but just a cursory reading of it, I think he's having questions as to how are we going to. At the moment, the central bank has some regulatory mechanism,
there's this company Lanka Clear. Now, it's owned by all the banks, including the state banks, and the
central bank has a regulatory eye on
and they have a regulatory eye, and of course they also own part of the company. There's a small shareholding. The problem is this, and you just touched on it. There is no Data Protection Act as such here. We have different things. And I don't know about you, but I would rather the central bank be the guardian of my financial information.
Because of the present system. Can I just break that down for you? Data protection, like the Data Protection Act of 1998 in the UK, where you and I have both lived and worked. Now that governs across the board, that national legislation say, all of you, once you tick off that box at the end of any agreement you sign saying, I wish to avail myself the provisions of the Data Protection Act, then your data is protected. And except in very given circumstances like in court order, that data cannot be given. What for us is now, what you're trying to say for us is that because we don't have a national legislation like that, there is a risk that your data may be outsourced to third parties.
And those third parties
Can I just finish? Now, the second part of it is, although we don't have data protection regime in Sri Lanka, our data is bound to be protected. If you and I go to our bank, we sign an agreement, they are bound by confidentiality clauses which protect our data. But your problem arises now when that data is transposed onto a third platform or a national payment platform. We, the consumer, don't have an agreement with them that they will satisfactorily deal with our data or protect it. Now, without a central data protection mechanism or legislative mechanism, how are we guaranteed that protection? I think that's the point that the government is also trying to raise. That's your problem. That's your problem.
That's right. And the problem is that the apex agency in charge of these matters, ICTA, the problem is that they made an attempt to give this to a company. They say it had already been shortlisted several months ago. But then when we did our investigative role, we find that this company was actually incorporated many months later. And it's a company with no track record. It's a brand new company. And I'm sorry, but I don't think I want them handling my data. Like you say, I have no contract with them. I'd rather the central bank be my guardian of that information. Very recently, a bank in Sri Lanka there was a breach of their security. Many high-end customers found that, to their horror, that all their dealings with their bank, including details of their borrowings, their deposits, their commercial loans, their overdraft, their credit cards, were all included in their names, their addresses, their passwords, not their passwords.
Not just in Sri Lanka. Remember, if you look at how the data protection law was converted into a court case in London, remember, a famous bank, I don't want to mention a name, they might advertise with you, they didn't lose it. They had this habit of taking out all their documentation and tearing it by the machines, throwing it in garbage bins.
Yes.
And they had a system, a company hired to take the garbage away. A very enterprising man in that garbage company started taking out all the documentation and looking at the bank account numbers and cloning cards. You follow?
Yeah.
And then there was a huge scandal that went to the courts in London. That's how data protection regime came to be.
Now, on the same score, on this matter of ICTA, and obviously somebody's just resigned yesterday and so on, the point is they've engaged in the social media in these sort of, they're wild, baseless claims that a frequency had been allocated without any payment. And people must have been wondering why we haven't responded. Well, that's not the forum. You know, we're journalists and so on. But just to put anyone out of their whatever misery, supposed misery they are in,
on social media,
just to say that these licenses, these frequencies, not only allocated to us, allocated to all the broadcasters who had licenses in a different period of time, going back several years back, when there was hardly any infrastructure available. So the government decided to give these people licenses, allocate the frequencies, but
whoever wanted to bring in the investment.
Yes, but you needed millions of dollars worth of investments to make sure that you were able to use those frequencies, and we are not alone. There are colleagues at Hiru, at Derana, at Rupavahini, are all part of this vibrant industry in which millions of dollars...
Rupavahini would have been a state investment.
Indeed. Yeah. But nevertheless an investment in millions of dollars, and today a vibrant industry employing thousands of people, thousands of opportunities. And
what you need to look at is then all you just got to the frequency.
Exactly.
And then you had to go and build out this network, this huge network.
And that is the answer. There's no point trying to drag the president 30 years later or 25 years later, the President Sirisena.
Very simple example. You give a bare land to the Hilton chain in international and say, okay, you can put up a hotel here. It's only a man who will have the investment capacity to put up the Hilton, who will have to take that land, and then over the years he'll build up the Hilton Hotel.
Absolutely.
Then it becomes a multi-million-dollar business, but not before.
And in Colombo, we've got two examples. There's the Taj and there's the Hilton. When they did the Hilton, we must bear in mind that there was I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was the first international brand. I think there was a Hyatt before that. But anyway, Hilton, there was no, on the day I think the Japanese were signing the contracts, there was mayhem in Colombo. It's a credit to Mr. Pereira, to Colonel Pereira, that he managed to get this blessed agreement signed.
Now that is why for us now people are saying with regard to even Hamad report that you need to now they're coming out with the new concepts which may not have been around even 30 years ago. Now China Harbour, they're saying China Hamad report, not China Hamad report, they're saying you need to calculate NPV value or net present value as to what it will be in 70 years on and all that. So now they're quietly coming around with these concepts and that is why it's important. But at that time, as you correctly said, you would have just got a frequency and you had
I think he was given 7 acres of land.
There you go.
Now they're saying, oh, this is prime property, blah, 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 blah. But these people, these entrepreneurs, they had vision and they had commitment and they put their money where their mouth was. And that's the problem here. It's not a problem, it's something that we have to be appreciative. And people resort to all sorts of lies and so on social media.
But I frankly believe you shouldn't respond to social media. I mean, I have never, even during that election time.
This is such an important matter. And, you know, the young people out here, they want to know what on earth's happening, you know. They get confronted by when they go home and say, well, what's your channel doing? And so now they know. Now they know. The information is freely available, and it can all be fact-checked, just as much as we fact-check and find out all these things. That's what we've done.
Good.
You know.
Congratulations.
And so trillions of rupees would have been at stake here. Imagine, we're all using a card, an online payment, whatever we're doing.
That's all data.
There's all data, and it's all a transaction. And each transaction carries a fee. And that is what is at stake here. When you look at it for over a period of time, quite possibly trillions of rupees would have been at stake. And so, you know.
So the money angle, and also you need to, I think, particularly look at the data protection angle as to how are you going to confirm that this data that you're giving to this private entity will be protected for the consumer.
Krishma Surya, do you know what? I've enjoyed this half an hour. You must come often. You must come again.
Well, when you call us.
The BMW has GPS. You can set it and it'll find
when you
its way
call
here.
us, Faraz. It's always good to be here. Nice to be here after a few months, and hopefully we'll see you.
Thank you very much. And your analysis is absolutely super. I like that bit. Thank you very much. And that's about it from Newsline. We have to return you because the control room's going spare. But there you go. Well done. Thank you to the control room. Thank you, Stephanie and co. And that's it from Newsline. We'll see you same time, same place. Tomorrow we have doing a recording that we made from Kotmale. You really must watch that. Take care and God bless.